video is part of our second series of presentations about the Book of Mormon. Because the prophet Joseph Smith taught the early church leaders that the Lehigh colony landed in South America, we have created this series of videos. Our theories and research is based on the truths from the Book of Mormon, but should not be considered as official church doctrine. The secret tunnels of the City of Nephi, or Cusco, Peru. In this video, we will discuss and discover the secret ancient tunnels talked about in the Book of Mormon. This discovery is one of the important 15 characteristics that define the City of Nephi. These 15 true virtues of Nephi's city, the Puma City, are only found in their entirety in the ancient capital of the Incas, Cusco, Peru. The tunnels of Cusco, one of the most intriguing studies conducted recently in Peru in August 2000, was carried out in Cusco at the Temple of Coricancha by Spanish archaeologist Alcem P. Rambla, called the Wiracocha Project. Using modern technology, a method called ground penetrating radar, or GPR, a group of scientists from Spain, called the Book of Explorer, have been able to map out a system of tunnels that radiate out from the Temple of Coricancha. One entrance at the temple site appears to be beneath the altar of Santa Rosa, which is at the main altar of the Temple of Coricancha. This series of tunnels is 5 meters deep and is of ancient design. It extends from Coricancha to the Plaza de Armas and then to the fortress of Sacsayhuaman on top of the hill above the city of Cusco, some 2 kilometers in length, going south to north. The tunnels going east to west also link to the Temple of Coricancha with the convent of Santa Catalina or Marcha Husi, with the main cathedral or temple of Wiracocha, with the palace of Huascar, with the temple of Menkopec or Colcampata, and with Huamanarca. All of these buildings are in perfect astronomical alignment, which confirms that the ancient Peruvians also guided their constructions by the location of the sun and moon and the constellation. Here's a picture of the Avenue of the Sun, Avenida del Sol of Cusco. Of course, the motivation for such work, recently by the Spanish in the year 2000, is the search for the hidden Inca treasure that eluded the Spanish and Pizarro back in 1533. It has been traditionally thought that the Incas hid the bulk of their temple treasure in a deep nearby lake, or most likely buried it in the secret tunnels under the city to keep it from falling into the hands of the European invaders. These tunnels under Cusco have been abandoned and condemned for centuries, and were in disrepair even when the Spaniards arrived. Everyone who entered never returned and died, so the conquistadors sealed up the entrances for safety's sake. Alcem P. Rambla, president of the Book of Explorer, has said, "We know that the accumulation of metals over a long period of time in an enclosed and humid space, such as the subsoil of Cusco, can create toxic substances such as cyanide, mercury, or chloride. Inhaling these is probably what killed explorers in times past. But we enter prepared. Whether or not the tunnels can be reconstructed and entered using special suits and breathing air is not as important as the artifacts to be recovered. It would be very important, for instance, if ancient records could be discovered, which would not only prove that the ancient pre-Inca people did have a writing system, but also that could collaborate the Book of Mormon writings. King Mosiah I probably was able to take most of his records with him to Zarahemla, so as to expect any ancient records of the original Nephites is a long shot. However, Limhi and his people left the city of Nephi in haste, and that probability could be very real. The main tunnel starts under the Avenue of the Sun from the Temple of Coricancha and its temple garden. In the center of the photo is the main cathedral in the Plaza de Armas in the lower left, and extends to the fortress of Sacsayhuaman on its northern extremity. The possibility of records of Limhi's kingdom and era are truly a good possibility. Such records, of course, would be an invaluable find that could substantiate the whole work of Joseph Smith and the restoration. Tunnels of the Book of Mormon. The secret backpass or tunnels. The secret backpass or tunnels that connected the city of Nephi with Shiloh and the fortress is also another important attribute of the city of Nephi. Shiloh also plays an important role in the escape of the people from the Lamanites when Gideon presents his plan to King Lamani. Several places can be seen where presumably the ancient tunnel entrances surface. Behold, the back pass, through the back wall, on the back side of the city. The Lamanites, or the guards of the Lamanites, by night are drunken. Therefore, let us send a proclamation among all this people, that they gather together their flocks and herds, that they may drive them into the wilderness by night. And I will go according to thy command, and pay the last tribute of wine to the Lamanites. And they will be drunken, and we will pass through the secret pass on the left of their camp, when they are drunken and asleep. Thus we will depart with our women and our children, our flocks and our herds, into the wilderness. And we will travel around the land of Shiloh. Mosiah chapter 22, verses 6 to 8. Nephi was well acquainted with Jerusalem and the tunnel of Hezekiah that led from the Temple Mount within the walls of the city of Jerusalem to the outside wall, which was used in defense of the city, and to be able to get water and provisions into the city during a siege. No doubt Nephi planned such defenses and strategies for his own city to connect it to the fortress of Shiloh with a secret pass or tunnel. This pass could be used to move men and supplies to the refuge or the fort undetected, and in this case to flee the city undetected by the Lamanites. Graciano de la Vega, 1609. In 1609, Graciano de la Vega, in his book The Royal Comments of the Incas from the year 1609, explains that, and I quote, "A network of underground passages as long as the towers themselves were all connected. The system was composed of streets and malls starting in all directions, all with identical doors. It was so complicated that even the bravest did not venture into the labyrinth without an orientation guide that consisted of a roll of rope or thick brabant attached to the entrance door to be unwound as it advanced through the tunnels. As a child, I used to go to the fort with the boys my age, but we did not dare to go far, always staying in places where there was sunlight, because we were afraid, very afraid, getting lost, after hearing all of the stories that the Indians told us about the place." Unquote. Graciano continues pointing out, some of the tunnels reached Cusco, 3 kilometers away, communicating Saskatchewan with the Coricancha temple and the other building. Other tunnels went into the very heart of the Andes, not knowing exactly where they were leading. Investigations in these labyrinths became important again in 2003, when the international press echoed after the discovery of a large underground tunnel 2 kilometers long in the Cusco subsoil. Finding was done as a result of the work carried out by the Coricancha project by the Spanish archaeologist Anselm P. Rambla and his exploration team, who says this tunnel connects Saskatchewan with the Coricancha, or current temple of Santo Domingo. In addition, Anselm P. Rambla added that the tunnel discovered was only a small part of the large network of galleries, cameras, mausoleums that surely extended under the floor of the city, as it seemed to indicate all the results made with modern and sophisticated radar equipment, which pointed out other points, that different tunnels communicated the current convent of Santo Domingo with the convent of Santa Catalina or Marchahusi, with the cathedral or temple of the Inca Huiracocha, with the palace of Huascar, with the temple of Manco Capac or Colcampata, and with the Huamarca. Let's not forget that the current Catholic churches were built on top of and destroying or hiding the ancient Inca sacred places. These galleries are located about 100 meters deep underneath the city of Cusco, according to this research, close quote. There are legends that tell the story of adventurers who entered the Big Chincana to never return. Among them, the story of 2 young people who went on an adventure and went to explore these tunnels. After several days of walking among the sliding, they managed to find a golden corn. After their discovery, they tried to find the exit, but they could not. In desperation, one of them died in the attempt. His partner, after many days of effort, managed to find a way out of the church of Santo Domingo, dying shortly after with the ear of gold corn in his hand. It is said that the monks, upon discovering this young man with his golden ear of corn, melted it down and fashioned it into a crown for the Bishop of Cusco. Another famous golden crown of Our Lady of the Assumption in Colombia. Several crowns such as this have been made from stolen Inca gold and melted down to form these religious artifacts. Here are again the 15 characteristics of the city of Cusco, Peru. They correspond to our ancient city of Nephi from the Book of Mormon. It is important to note that only the city of Cusco, the ancient capital of the Incas, can truly have all of the important characteristics. It makes Cusco our prime target in our search for the city of Nephi amongst the ruins of the Americas. It is truly a magnificent city that was originally planned and laid out by a prophet of God to be the home for this righteous king in the promised land that God had given him and his people if they would but serve him. It does not surprise us that he planned provisions like these secret tunnels or back passes as per the scriptures so that they could escape their fortresses to defend themselves in times of war. Nephi grew up in Jerusalem, where he had learned of such defensive measures and implemented them in the planning of his city as well. The city of Nephi was surely a magnificent city that was built for the children of God.